Hello, thank you for watching and being part of this experience. The free content on the YouTube channel and with the relaunch is made possible through the programs offered with the Love Solve Academy, which this fall we're making it very accessible and affordable for people to have the power and impact that we've been able to offer through the Love Solve Academy in the past through a more efficient and economical format. The Academy essentially had its start over 20 years ago as I stepped into understanding the map of consciousness and the model of frequencies that I was given at the time was a 7-level progression model. So that's part of what has built the structure around the solutions that I've been developing ever since. So I've studied these calibrations and the work of Dr. Hawkins, the author of Power versus Force, and world renowned for his map of consciousness. And if you'll see on this map, you see that we've got really low frequency emotions, shame at the bottom, fear and anger towards the top of the negative emotions with a calibration of around 100. And then we've got really good stuff above that. What we really want to get to are things above a 400, where we start to experience meaning and love and joy, peace and enlightenment. That's where we all want to be, right? So what we're going to show you is how we end up not getting those things in life and what holds us back. So I break this down into 5 life areas. And I think that's really a key and something that I found as I studied Dr. Hawkins is it doesn't really work to assign one number to a person and their life, right? And so when I do the frequency assessment, which some of you may have chosen as part of the VIP offerings, you'll get your scores in these 5 life areas. They include physical, which is like your health, psychological, which is your mental health, social, which is your relationships, spiritual, which is more than just like religion. And the trick is to evolve within those truths into a better version of ourselves that goes beyond this life and this experience. And finances are a real challenge, right? And so this is like your career and your experience and relationship with money. So these are all 5 different areas of vibration, and they may be very different. As you see in this metaphor of the rock climber, you can have really high frequency experiences, but because of our low frequency like anchors, we may not be moving in life. We might be stuck. And so what we offer through these programs is a way to get unstuck and raise your frequency in the areas that really count. I am excited to introduce Cherie Burton today. We have a parallel journey in a lot of ways. And so I think we both see the power of a holistic model. We're both passionate about the crisis of addictions and mental health mental illness and depression. And so, Cherie's been in this field for a while. So she has a huge influence, which is amazing. And she holds it well and has done some amazing trainings that I've been part of. I've definitely done her stuff. She's done a lot of mine. And so I've learned, I think, from Cherie, probably the key things are empowerment, sovereignty. And I believe that's the subtitle of our, thank you, sacred sovereignty and divine partnership. And so I have watched Cherie's journey as a spiritual influencer, really. And that's where I put her in the position of telling us about how to raise your frequency in the spiritual arena, which we talk about the 5 life areas. And so she gets to do the spiritual. And I hope you realize what an honor that is, because I know some really cool spiritual people, you know this. And so to put you in that level, I see your amazing evolution. So we're going to talk a little bit about the awakening journey, the awakening process, and take people through the kind of navigate that. So I'll let you kind of jump in with where you want to start, and then we'll dialogue a little.
Okay, great. Well, thank you for that introduction. I've always cherished our connection, and I've seen your metamorphosis as well and your boldness, and it's fun. I know we've attended a lot of retreats together and we've done different things over the years. We've always kind of had each other in our back pockets for, I don't know. Now we're both in Cache Valley, so that's fun. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and just share my screen. She and I both are really convicted around this map of consciousness. And I know this has probably been introduced already in the series or in the summit, but really this is a seminal work of David Hawkins that helps us kind of look at the calibration states of our emotionality. And it's more than just emotion. It's actually pure feeling, which is different than emotion. And so emotions, I always like to say, emotions are like our teachers. They're like volatile children, and the feelings are the parents. It's the purity. It's the unadulterated state. So even in these lower density emotions, shame, guilt, apathy, I would even say grief as a lower density emotion can be a pure feeling state in the sense that it informs, it teaches, and sometimes our suffering is our greatest teacher. That I thought today, with Christine and I kind of talking back and forth about what would serve all of you the greatest in terms of what I can help, I guess, seal in or deliver or remind, really, because that's all I do as a guide and teacher, is just remind people that we are already that. We are already in our heart of hearts, in our pure form, in the seeds of divinity that we hold. We are all of these states. We are already enlightened. And this has been something that I've had to really rest into and accept in order for me to have my own mental health, and to have my own inner authority around. I may display behavior, I may, explode emotion, I might get triggered, but who I am is already love, joy, peace, and enlightenment. I'm sure a lot of you are truth seekers, or you wouldn't be drawn to this kind of a summit. Oh, I see Tamara Ling. I haven't seen you forever. Hey, Tamara. So for me, one of my deepest core values is truth. Like, I just want to know reality. I just want to know. And sometimes truth can be subjective. And I know that we want to say that there's absolute truth in multiple domains, but we live in a multiverse. We are multidimensional beings. And so your truth is different because you are a very unique expression of the divine. And I really like this quote. We don't always see things as they are. We see them as we are. And with that, we don't always attract what we want or what we don't want. We attract the frequency that we are embodying for the most part. So I just want us to, when I give these kinds of presentations, I don't want people to go into self-abnegation, judgment, or anything like that. Because again, if we're really getting down to it, this is a Sanskrit term, tat svam asi, which means basically you are that. Thou art that. You're it. You're the thing that you're seeking. You're already it. And it's not blasphemous. When we're talking about sovereignty, this is really what I'm talking about. When I started throwing that word around, people like in live audiences, people just look at me like, what? Isn't God sovereign? Like, what are you, they're thinking like the monarchy and all these things. And I'm not talking about hierarchy. Sovereignty is an embodied state of knowing who you are through the eyes of the divine. And so this term, Sanskrit is one of our oldest languages, it has been around for millennia. And so how do we, as truth dwellers and seekers, how do we claim or accept or come into an understanding of our own divinity, of our own intact states, seeds of divinity, our own intact sovereign self? And that lives at the heart of what I get so passionate about. Christine mentioned the chakras. So basically, we're like a tree. Our roots sink deep in the earth. Our branches extend to heaven. Our body's the bridge between heaven and earth. And if you look at these chakras, and I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with them, I've really been studying like the yogi masters and the wisdom Jesus. That's a whole other thing. But one of the things that I found in my work with women, and Christine and I were talking about this over Marco Polo back and forth, like until these lower centers, the root chakra especially, and the sacral chakra, which is our first two lower chakras, what I found in my work with women over the years is that if they don't feel safe, they will not be able to feel connected. So the top, that crown chakra, we all want to jump to those upper chakras and to feel spiritual. Oh, because your crown connects you to everything. It's all that is. The third eye is the liberated mind. It's the ability to see with clarity what reality is for you. And then the throat, a lot of times women, and I'll explain why women have blockages in their throat, but essentially, this is it's not a top-down approach to accepting your enlightened state or your inner divinity. It's not a top-down approach. It's a bottom-up approach. So that safety lives right here in the root chakra, which is a sense of belonging and being here right now. And if you've been, as most of us have, hurt, abused, traumatized, anything around that, then there's some density happening in those lower chakras. And it's really going to be difficult for you to feel connected, to feel your divinity, to feel alive. With respect to the throat, so I always say that the heart is the bridge, because there's 3 chakras above it and 3 chakras beneath it. And that's where the divinity lives. But for women, our wisdom actually lives right here in the sacral chakra. Now, I've been all over the world on sacred pilgrimages the last 7 years, studying from masters, priestesses, a lot of them from the Eastern tradition, but a lot of them that live in Europe. And I've done a Mary Magdalene pilgrimages. I've kind of done this whole understanding around what womb wisdom actually is and what it means and what's been obscured and what's been lost and what's been hidden in sacred texts. And when a woman connects, when she feels first safe in that root chakra, it's like, I have a right to be here. I claim my space. I'm rooted. I'm here. I'm alive. I'm connected to, the earth. Without that earth connection, you will not experience spirituality in this life. And people want to bypass this earth density and all the things going on and stuff. Well, that's not what Christ did. There's being in the world, but not of it. But the world, God so loved the world. And so if we see ourselves as separate, we will not, from everyone, from humanity, we will not feel rooted and connected in the earth. We'll want to keep projecting ourselves out into a higher dimension or, do all the spiritual practices around trying to connect and connect and connect. And it's going to just elude us every time because that rootedness is so integral. Rootedness to the feminine and Mother Earth, especially. So these lower chakras are very feminine. They're very divine feminine. Now, the solar plex is that center that gives you your feminine empowerment. So if we're looking at a bottom-up approach, when you feel rooted and when you've connected to your womb wisdom, and then comes the power, then comes the this is me. This is my solar self. This is how I shine in the world. And then the heart is engaged. The heart is engaged. Now you can heart-centered living is a state. It's life goals, hashtag life goals, because that's what we're all shooting for, is to have a heart-centered life. The heart and the mind are connected through the throat. So when the heart is speaking always to the mind, there's more neural pathways that run from the heart to the head than the other way around. So as the heart intimates or intuits, the throat is the highway. Again, bottom up approach. So when the heart has things to say and the throat says, I don't think so, or the mind says, I don't think so, what happens to this center, especially for women? We're talking thyroid issues. We're talking, there's a myriad of things that can happen here. So again, no judgment. We're all human and we're all trying to navigate this body, especially now in this place and time that we live in. So I teach something that's kind of a model for how to, it's what we all really seek. And I'll show it to you in a minute. This is called my creation compass. We all want love and we all seek power, or to become empowered, to have personal power. So we want to be loved and we want to love, to give love. But what's interesting about this, and what I've learned really powerfully, is that this is receiving is actually preparatory to giving. So until we've received love, until we've received power or become empowered, until we've received it, which is very feminine, then we have nothing to give or very little to give. And so what's in the middle of this here is surrender. This is the still point of creation. This is, you could call it 0 point, and there's a lot of quantum things we can call it, but essentially it's getting to neutrality and coming into a place of show me. Whether someone's in front of you or you're having a conversation or you're praying or meditating, whatever's happening in you, it's a process of stop. I call it stop, breathe, receive, because you're literally doing a timeout and saying, I need powered up. I need to feel divine love. I need to receive it into my being, because if I'm not filled up, obviously you guys know all those metaphors and analogies about like put the oxygen mask on first before, but it's really, really pivotal, this receiving piece, because that actually shifts your frequency more than giving. And see, this is not how we were conditioned and programmed. We were told that the more we served and the more we gave, the happier we'd be and the healthier we'd be and the better we would be. And that is a half truth. Receiving is where we say, I don't know, show me, fill me. And then we open ourselves, we open our chakras, we open our hearts, we open, and we feel that aliveness, we feel that love, we feel that power. And it can happen in a millisecond. And this is not something even that takes, long amounts of time. It really is as simple as stopping, telling your brain, time out, I'm swirling, I have a mental swirl, I'm triggered. How do I come back? I close my eyes, I stop, I breathe, and I receive. And that's one of my favorite mantras, stop, breathe, receive. So these are just some ways that we can get into that really beautiful receiving state. And also the giving state. So this is the place where when we're looking at that map of consciousness and we want to shift and we want to, take a quantum leap from, let's just say, shame into gratitude or shame into joy, then it's all laid out for us in the body and in the earth and in the sky. It's not other people. It's not programs. I love programs. I have them. This is, we will receive through others, but this is your sacred walk. The sun, the water, the earth, being in solitude, exploring your creativity, eating great food, playing music, laughing. I just actually returned from a trip to Italy with my 2 daughters 2 days ago. I still have a little jet lag. And I posted about this on Facebook, but I really it really sank in finally, all the stuff that I teach, because in Italy, everything is so ancient and There's so much art and culture and history, and the earth is so beautiful there. And I came home and I thought, I want to live. I don't want to do. I want to receive these things so it can be in a different state. So I can show up in ways that serve my loved ones, my closest people to me. What fills your love cup? That's why I call this love cup. Full to overflowing. How do you receive that? Well, again, it comes back to nature, but also each of you have some way that you move your body that feels alive and resonant for you. We only learn through resonance. We don't actually learn from reading. We learn from what's being communicated in the frequency of the words and how they land in our being. And that creates a resonance. And once that resonance is there, you've learned it. You've gotten the gift. And so some of you are more on the go type of people. Some of you are more sporty and athletic, and that's great. Find how your body likes to move. Find what a true resonance feels like for you so that you feel alive, so that your frequency can shift on a moment's notice. I know for me, I spend a lot of time in my office writing. I'm writing a book right now. When I start to feel a lack of flow, because all healing is just flow. All creation is flow. Our bodies have lymph and blood, and anyway, it's endless. Breath is flow. So spirit is flow. So when I experience a lack of flow, I know that's my invitation for my body's intelligence to change my state, get outside, put on some music, dance, I don't know, creating a state change just so that I'm not locked in to processing the block or analyzing why I don't have flow. I'm getting out of my head and into my body and going outside, and sometimes even calling a friend is great there. So really, this is just about sensory anchoring. Don't you love a bathtub like that? I love that image. Our sensory pathways are our portals to joy and the raising of our frequency. So hearing, every one of our senses have a physical and a spiritual pathway. So the spiritual pathway of sound, really, or hearing, is deep listening, deep soul-based listening. And then the spiritual pathway for sight is envisioning. What are you seeing in your ajna, in your mind's eye? What's arising? We sometimes call that the eye of faith. Sometimes we can't create something until we can see it first and conceptualize it. So what are the pictures playing in the mind? Envisioning. The spiritual pathway of taste is speaking. As I mentioned, when that throat chakra gets really congested and there's a lot of energy blockage going on, any kind of tension really that we feel in our body, it's our body's way of saying, hey, more flow needed here, more light, more breath sent here. And this is where really declaring and speaking out can be really, even if you're the only one, even if you're out in nature talking to the trees, using your voice through the mechanism of that throat chakra from the heart is extremely powerful and very, very healing, creates an immediate state change. And then the spiritual pathway of smell is aroma. And this has been a huge part of my career path. I call it sacred alchemy with essential oils. And your aromatic pathway is the most complex of all your senses. Your sense of smell is 10,000 times more complex than your sense of sight. Actually, you have smell receptors all over your whole body. So they're most condensed in your heart. You have more smell receptors on the surface of your heart than you have anywhere else in your entire body, any organ in your body. So I always tell people, if you want to immediately activate the heart, smell something. And I use essential oils, as you can see behind me. I'm a huge alchemist with oils. I love them. I know of no other more potent sensory anchoring tool than essential oils, because they come straight from the earth and they're highly concentrated. And then the spiritual pathway of touch is nurturing. And by the way, women, we're very relational. And so when we hear a truth or something sparks, our immediate thing is to think of someone close to us who might be struggling with that. And I would just encourage you as you go throughout the summit to always turn it back to you. So for instance, if I'm talking about nurturing, I'm not talking about going and nurturing everyone and touching everyone. And I'm saying bring that into you. Self-anointing is very, very powerful with essential oils. Even just they've done trauma studies where they encourage you to hold or touch different parts of your body when you're in an anxiety state, just because it does ground you and remind you that you have skin so that you're not disassociating from this body. And then the last one is kind of our sixth sense, that is just our intuition. It's not measurable by scientific instruments. And it's so subtle, but it's the most powerful one. So kind of my philosophy is when you start to engage your senses, your 5 physical senses, you open up the spiritual pathways, and therefore your intuition is heightened. But we must anchor, we must ground. Again, we want to go straight to enlightenment, and we forget we have these bodies. We want to disassociate. And that's just a natural thing. That's what our ego does, and that's what our body does to keep us safe. So the biggest challenge is to become aware of when you're checking out, when you're disassociating, when 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 you've left the building, so to speak. Really quickly again with oils, and this is just again, they're very, very concentrated, and they are the most powerful to me, and to those that I have been able to support. They're just living chemistry, and so because they grow in the earth, they are highly, highly potent, and they cannot be replicated in a lab. So you'll see a lot of synthetic things that mimic this, but really what we're looking for is a cellular exchange. They're very compatible with the body. They're carbon-based like the body. The body has, cell receptors that will receive these molecules. And so they do hit all the pathways. And one of the things that I've seen that has been really, really powerful is that when you smell something, and not only does it activate your heart, but it can activate a sense of awareness. Helen Keller knew this because she couldn't see and she couldn't hear, but she could smell. And so she navigated most of her life through touch and smell. But she said smell is a potent wizard that transports you across thousands of miles in all the years that you have lived. It's not uncommon for someone to smell something and make an association with a past memory. They're doing a lot of studies right now on PTSD and inhalers. We
Hey, Siri.
Oh, someone's doing Siri. We help a lot of therapists in their practice to diffuse oils so that their clients can access stored memories more efficiently. So, I mean, it's endless, but the whole thing is finding tools that you can grab when you need them at the ready, so that you don't have to think about it. You've got a little station. I have stations all over my house with oils and cards and images and all these sensory things I can touch, chocolate I can put in my mouth, peppermint I can put in all the things that I know are going to, for lack of a better word, quicken me so that I can go straight into a state change and receive. So yeah, the only other thing I would mention about smell being such a powerful, again, it's your most complex sense of all of your senses. Breath is done through inhalation, and spirit is breath, and spirit rides on the breath. But when you pair it with an organoleptic agent or an organic compound or a chemical from the earth, then you're getting a more magnified effect. So when you smell something, those aromatic molecules travel up your nasal passages and hit these 2 bulbs that are literally linked to your brain, and those are your olfactory bulbs. And those olfactory bulbs go straight into your limbic brain, which is responsible for all your emotional regulation. So nervous system regulation is like making a big, comeback right now. People are talking about it. It's a buzz phrase in the industry. And regulation is only achieved through consistent self-care and awareness. So that's why I'm saying having these stations where, if I grab this and I smell this, my frequency is going to shoot up. My frequency is immediately going to change. And that's going to take me out of my logic brain, and it's going to activate my heart. So if I had to choose one sensory pathway to really nurture when you're looking at state changes and frequency advances, I would say it's smell. Do you have anything to add to that, Christine?
My gosh, I'm so glad you asked. This is a new brand. Can you see it? It's Crown Origin. So here's the story, is that Todd, my new husband, he has like 2.5 years clean, and he's gone on the journey of just up leveling. He's like gone through more frequency levels in 2.5 years than I did in like 15 or 20, right? So he decided to tackle nicotine addiction. And he went through a process, where he got close, but he wasn't all the way in. So in February, he finally accomplished it. But how he did it is he got through that phase that he relapsed back to the nicotine before. And what he realized is that he was in full-blown battle with his mind, and he calls it the demons, and what happened is I went in the room, and because it all ties together, I would go in the room where he was just hiding away. We just did a video, and he said, he was being an a-hole, and that's where he thought he would be better off. So I'd go to him and I was inspired to check his crown chakra, and it was reversed. And so that complete reversal on his crown chakra was what was the battle that was going on. It was like there wasn't, an external force vying for his soul, his willpower, his connection to the divine. And that's a lot of it, is his higher power. You'd call the Canna Zen his higher power. So his crown chakra had reversed into this other power. So I pulled out my essential oil, and
you alchemized that blend yourself, right?
Yes, it came actually, this story was, it actually was inspired through a woman who was a victim of satanic ritualistic abuse. And I know Tamara Lang is somebody who has studied that and worked with that. It is it's something I wouldn't wish on anyone to even work with, much less deal with personally. And so, but anyway, that's where the recipe came from. Is I was praying one weekend as I worked with this woman to know what to do, and the recipe came, and I've used it ever since. And so I pulled this out, and what it does is it corrects the crown chakra. And so I pulled it out and put it on his head, and he said immediately he would breathe it in, and some people are more sensory based than others, but he's definitely sensitive to smell. And he would breathe that in, and it has frankincense and myrrh in it. And you got to think through, 2,000 years ago, that was considered pretty important, right? So it would correct his crown, and he would be able to get through an hour at a time, and we'd have to come back and do it sometimes multiple times a day. But it literally inspired an entire business in nicotine freedom.
Wow.
And so I've now relabeled it Crown Origin. So it was huge. And so everything you're saying, I'm like, oh my gosh, we're going to use clips from this for people that are learning how to gain their power over something like a nicotine addiction. And it is so comprehensive with the vital body, the mind, the sensory, connections, things that we don't understand consciously. It's happening on so many levels.
Yeah, that's an awesome story. I know Tamara and I have worked together with oils in decade ago or so. And I know her work is really powerful. And then Christine and I have also dabbled and I know you had another blend called Divine Origin. Did that replace that?
That's what it is. So
it
still holds the Divine Origin as its founding formula.
Yeah.
We've put it, and we're going to talk about the formulas actually as our masterclass next week, but it's all kind of meant to be packaged together and work together to clear up this whole mind, body, spirit malady.
Yeah. And a lot of
solutions on all of us.
Yeah. I know a lot of you are probably using oils already. I think the education piece of it is really pivotal. To be able to connect to people who are doing this higher education with like, what are the oils actually doing? When I first started teaching about oils, it was like holistic emotional science and mind body stuff. But now it's like sacred alchemy. It's like spiritual. It's like, we're here to clear these generational issues. We're here to, take these high
And I have
frequencies from the
heard,
earth. Yeah.
yes, I've heard that the information that was here thousands of years ago is still here. And so there are air particles. I believe I've heard air particles that you may breathe in that are from halfway around the world and centuries ago.
Mm.
And that's in that information field, we're connecting to things, and maybe it is coming through the olfactory senses. I don't know.
Yeah, there's this is the whole other thing I teach, but there's actually an ancient feminine lineage called myrrhophores, like frankincense and myrrh. They're called myrrh bearers or myrrhophores. And they were they were priestesses in Egyptian temples, and that carried on all the way through early Christianity. There are women I've met who've personally mentored and tutored me in the art of that lineage and that ancient art of anointing. So it's an endless exploration and really a spiritual one. I love that Christine has alchemized her own blend. I alchemized my own as well. It's really fun. So with that, love this is one of the Glastonbury images of Guinevere and King Arthur. But we all, Christ talked about the kingdom within. It doesn't come by observation. You cannot look outside of yourself to find God. You can't. I mean, you'll see it everywhere, but to actualize it, find it, source it, and feel it, to receive it, it's happening inside here. Everything's always happening inside here, and all of our relationships are a reflection of that. I like the word queendom within because it's more feminine and it connects me to Divine Mother. But it's also like, I love this image because it's like she's in charge. Like and this is like, I've had this image for my own being. Like my inner masculine bows to my inner feminine. And sometimes it's the other way around. And then sometimes they're just side by side. If any of you have ever studied Joseph Campbell and the Hero's Journey or the Heroine's Journey, Maureen Murdoch, she came on my podcast on the 30th anniversary of the Heroine's Journey. When we're all on this quest and we start, and one of the first things that happens is we over-identify with the masculine. And then we start searching for the feminine. And this is happening of what we're searching for outside of us, like seeking truth, and it's also happening within us. What happens is when we find the inner feminine, then we return with the elixir, which is that sweet love of God, that inner peace, that inner state of fulfillment. And then at the very last, we integrate. The highest spiritual path is integration. It's not staying up here in these beautiful high states. It's integrating all of you, your whole self, all of the density and all of the light. So shadow work becomes really important for accessing your inner queendom or kingdom. Coming back to this, again, it's all about surrender. It's all about bowing a knee to what shadow wants to reveal itself within you, and honoring it and seeing it and noticing it and working with it and sitting in it. I just wanted to bring this up really quick because these are I know all of you are probably so sick of hearing about masculine and feminine energy, but this is important because we're usually deflecting when we get triggered with something. We go into our shadow or our unhealthy state. And for women, our biggest go-to is to just make it okay for everybody else, to just placate. And that's actually not loving. It's actually not powerful. When we can express and we can advocate for ourselves, that's when we flip states. And actually the inner masculine, it's the same. When we're in our head too much, that's how you know. If you're swirling with thoughts and what ifs, if you're into this, like, what will happen if you find yourself criticizing and judging yourself and others, you know that you're in an unhealthy masculine. And if you're in a partnership, it's that mirror that gets held up. It's immediate feedback.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just to gauge how to know when you're flipping into shadow or flipping into an unhealthy state is when you feel confused and you feel frustrated and you want to be right.
Yeah.
That's
the ego stuff. It's all ego stuff.
It really is ego stuff.
Yeah.
And we need ego. Like I'm all about like working with the ego, again, integrating the ego instead of just like clearing and processing everything and getting it out of you. Oh, there's something wrong with me. I got all this shadow. I've got, no, like integrate it, transmute it. And that's what wholeness is. Wholeness is holding tension and paradox of your shadow and your light. So I'll just end with this. It's a really beautiful, well, I do have actually one more slide after this, but I love this word ensouled. Really what it means is to be fully incarnated. If you go back to that image of the woman as the tree, she's fully here on the earth. She's fully rooted. She's in her body, like root chakra. I'm right here. I'm in my body. And with that, you know, being embodied is just being in a state of, again, integrating your spirit and your body together. And they're on the same page. It's actually the opposite of disassociation or bypassing. And it means to also become saturated with your soul. So like your soul takes the driver's seat and your body's kind of along for the ride, having a great time, a great adventure. And also knowing like it's all about love. This is what we're all learning, is just how to love ourselves, really. But when going back to that Tat Dvam Asti in Sanskrit, you are that. Thou art that. You are the divine. I was trying to kind of understand this, and I was praying about it, meditating on it. And one day I was like, how does this work? How is God in everyone? And what's this whole masculine, feminine thing? And I looked out my window and I looked at a screen, like the screen on your window, and there's all these little holes. And it was like, oh my gosh, God projecting. I'm one of those little holes on that screen. And without me, without you, that screen would be incomplete. But God is projecting or experiencing themselves through each one of us. And we don't understand it. It's a huge mystery. But when we accept that we are divine and that we're having this divine physical experience, it frees us up to just be authentically who we are. Because we're all a different projection of the divine. And yeah, so this is just one of my favorite like grounding statements. Like it's an illusion to think things are going to get easier. They're not. But what's happening in the consciousness right now is that people are getting really deep codes and tools to empower them for when it starts getting harder. And if it was always easy and you could just break out your tools and it was always easy and whatever, sometimes your tools don't work. And that's when you just go within and you sit and rest with what is. But you'll find that sometimes it's 3 steps forward, 5 steps back, 10 steps forward, 2 steps back. It's this dance, this flow with how you're working with those frequencies. I mean, it starts with you and how you're shifting your frequency.
I wanted to do like kind of a grounding exercise too, because we talked about, like this embodiment from head to toe. And that really is something that I found in my journey. I talk about the 3 awakenings, which integrate well, they correspond well to the frequency model, the 100 to 700 frequency. And so at that, and because that also corresponds to the chakras, the awakenings do parallel the chakras. And so that 3rd awakening that I've now like started to fully embody, I realize is the experience of the open, connected crown to a divine, like partnered God is my experience, a masculine, feminine, perfect balance of divinity. And all the way from sky to earth, right? Father sky, mother earth, vertical integration as well. Just get out of your seat. And then if you've heard of like mountain pose, I'll reach so you can see it. It's like hands above your head, clasped together. And that is just such a huge experience of lifting, right?
I
Is
love that.
allowing yourself to be connecting at a higher, physiologically, you know, like symbolically, a higher way. And you can even go up on your tippy toes if you want to. And to just feel it and notice like what happens in your mind, what happens in your cells, everything in between. When you take a position, a physical position is powerful. And then I also talk to people about pounding it out with your feet. So I think what I find with especially a lot of feminine oriented, you know, people that are really nice is they don't stand up for themselves, right? And so you actually take your feet and you pound them on the ground and just like give your lower body this sense of power, that you have this, you know, you can take gravity and weight and do something with it. Right. And so there's just simple things like that yoga is powerful as well. And so, yeah, in my book, in 10 ways, I had a whole section on the sensory engagement part. And that's what drew Cherie into having another conversation about that, because I mentioned oils and variety of things, but movement is one of those engagement components, is how you move in the world. Right.
Yeah. And sometimes you just need like some kind of a motivation. And to get the motivation, you need to get in nature or grab an oil.
Yes,
Something nature-based will give you the motivation and the impetus to even want to do any of these things. I love yoga. I usually do it twice a week. There's some weeks I'm dragging my butt to that yoga mat.
Mm-hmm.
But when I go outside first and do a sun salutation like you just did, or a Tadasana or something like that, and then I come back, I want to do yoga after that.
Yes, exactly.
So these are just ways that you can stay connected to my work and what I'm about. My website is CherieBurton.com. I do have a podcast called The Soul Rose Show. 5 years now, 237 episodes. I really love the conversations I'm having. And also we're integrating what the ancients brought and the tools, and we're coming back to these earth-based modalities, but we're also talking about consciousness. We're also talking about quantum physics. We're also going into that piece. And really, those of us who are feeling called to teach and share and immerse ourselves in this work, know that that's what's unique about this time in history, is we're marrying or integrating the ancient and the modern.